Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Swamp Gas Podcast. My name is Mr. S. If you have listened to previous episodes of this podcast, then you might have heard that my first interaction with an extraterrestrial being was at a cafe on the beach, and I was spoken to telepathically. Undoubtedly, this will create a lot of skepticism, and rightfully so. There are a lot of people who are making up stories about this around the world, and you would be remiss to not be skeptical, especially when it comes to the UFO phenomenon and someone claiming to have met an ET. With that, I'm going to explain two additional senses that humans have in a way in which I think you can relate to, which science is actually reluctant to prove. However, science has very recently proven the seventh sense, not necessarily communicating with other beings through your mind, but using your mind to operate technology through the use of only your mind. So, with that said, I'm going to explain to you two additional senses that humans have, and I'm going to explain them in a way that I think that you will be able to easily relate to. And this is something that science is reluctant to prove. However, science has very recently proven the seventh sense. It's not necessarily communicating with other beings through your mind, but it's using your mind to operate technology, only your mind. So now these are interchangeable. It doesn't necessarily have to be one or the other, the sixth or the seventh. But the sixth sense is the ability to sense the presence of other beings. It is similar to proprioception, which is essentially the ability to be able to sense your place in space. So if you close your eyes, you know where your face is, but as you're getting closer to touching your face, you can sort of feel it, right? You have just a general awareness of where you're at, where your body is. And I know it's not exactly the same thing, but it is similar to this. What I'm referring to actually is the feeling of the presence of another being. This is actually a sense that we humans had a long time ago and have basically lost since our society is more civilized and, we have police and all of that now. Before, let's say you were in the jungle, it's very important to have that ability because if a lion is stalking you, and you're not just using your sense of smell or, because humans don't have a great sense of smell like animals do, but your hearing or other things, it's just that feeling, right? And women are much more in tune with this sense than men are. I'm sure that pretty much everybody listening to this can relate to the fact that sometimes you're standing there and you feel like this sort of burning sensation, and you turn around and look, and there's some creepy dude standing there looking at you. So that is the sense that I'm talking about. And animals still possess that because obviously their safety is, outside is much different than ours. But that's just one of the senses. When they say, hey, we have five senses, no, we actually have six. But since it's a metaphysical sense, science has a very difficult time proving it. Therefore, they don't really want to talk about it. Now, the seventh sense is telepathy, and that is the ability to communicate thoughts or ideas through the use of only your mind. And this is actually something that was just recently proven by Neuralink, and it's not communicating like what I'm talking about, where someone speaks to you and you can hear their voice, but it is the ability to operate, technology, right? So Neuralink just installed or implanted a chip in a monkey's brain, which I'll include a link. So this monkey right here, and it has the ability now to play Pong through use of its mind, strictly its mind. And that is the same way that these extraterrestrial beings are operating their craft. Now, there are a few ways that they operate their craft, but this is the primary way. I really kind of wish that I did this video last week before Neuralink released that video of this, because I was talking about this, and you do hear people talk about this. They say, they met an extraterrestrial being, and then, they were, spoken to, or they were in communication with them. It's one way, by the way, as far as I know. And they also operate their crafts using thought. And again, they do operate other ways, but that's another story. But if you question this, first watch the video, which is absolutely amazing, and it does illustrate the point that you can control things through the use of just your mind. And you obviously, looking at that and then realizing, well, that's just a very rudimentary version of our actual capability, of our potential. And if you can, control a cursor with your mind, why would you argue that you couldn't communicate through the use of just your mind? And, I can explain it another way. We can send a signal to somebody on the opposite side of the world. So you pick up your cell phone, you dial a number, and you instantly talk with your friends or family or whoever, and they're on the opposite side of the world, and that is going remotely. It's a signal. It's bouncing off, a satellite, and then it's hitting a repeater station, and then it's going to the phone. But that's done instantaneously through thin air, just like you're receiving this information. It's through thin air. You're connected to the internet, most likely wirelessly at some level, and you're receiving information. Your computer receives information. And we created that. Well, maybe we did, maybe we didn't. But we created that technology. So why would it be so far outside of the realm of understanding to say that beings that are, even us, are able to communicate with each other? And I can explain it another way, actually, to better illustrate the point. You're sitting there thinking, like, you have a physical connection with somebody, and you can do this with people you don't have physical connections with. It's harder, though. But you have a friend or a family member or a significant other, and you are sitting there one day, and you're thinking about them, and all of a sudden they call you, or they send you a message. Same time, or you send them a message and they send you a message at the same time. Now, this can be odds, and you can kind of get into a rhythm and a routine about, when you feel like you haven't spoken with somebody for a while, and then all of a sudden you just kind of connect with them at the same time. But this goes further than just that. These are, you can consider it the occasional coincidence, but when it happens constantly, and when it happens to somebody that you haven't spoken with in a long time, that's when you start to go, what are the odds of that, right? So this is just another way that I'm trying to explain that we already do this. We've had this ability. We've just lost it over time. And that, again, is another story. but I wanted to try to explain this as simply as I can, to show you that you're already doing this. You already have those additional senses. It does take time to develop them, and it does take some work, and it takes the acceptance of having the ability to actually make it work more than it probably is working for you now, even though you might have noticed this and thought about it, but not actually put it into, the sense of, wait a minute, that's actually a seventh sense, an ability that we have. So I say this because when I say that, hey, an extraterrestrial being spoke to me through my mind, I know that is hard to believe for most people, and believe me, it was pretty intense. And even after that, coming to terms with what happened. So I get it. I get the skepticism, but you should just really honestly realize that we already do have that ability and are using it. And I know some people have it much more developed than my own. Like I've had that ability in one way or another since I was a kid. I worked on it a little bit, but it's really kind of, I would say, useless in society for the most part today because people don't accept it. And when you don't accept the ability to do something, the saying goes, if you think you can't do something, you can't do it. So, I don't practice it. I'm not sitting here, trying to blow out candles with my mind or any of that stuff. But I just wanted to explain this in a way where what I said about, having a communication with, an extraterrestrial being through the mind isn't as far-fetched as you would think. Now, it's not far-fetched at all because it's true, but just giving you the examples. So that's it. Hopefully this makes sense, and you can get past the whole craziness idea of there being more than just five senses. Have a good day.